I'd like to examine a scripture about what God has to say about respecting people. I'm going to read to you 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 15 through 17. For it is God's will that by doing good you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish people. Live as free people, but do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil. Show proper respect to everyone. Love the family of believers. Fear God. Honor the emperor. I believe that our veterans are a group of people that should be highly respected. I think everyone knows that we would not be a free society today if it was not for the service and sacrifice of our veterans. And this is a subject that very much hits home for me because I am an Army veteran. I served 2 years active duty in the infantry. Let's examine how each candidate honors veterans. I got to tell you, I'm particularly concerned about Mr. Trump's comments in the past about one of our most distinguished veterans, John McCain. First of all, let's examine a brief biography of John McCain and see how this man served his country. I'm going to do something that, as a Toastmaster, I'm trained not to do, which is look down and read. But the reason that I'm doing that is I want to make sure that I get the chronology exactly right. John McCain was a Naval Academy graduate. He served in Vietnam as a pilot. On October 26, 1967, McCain takes off on a bombing run over North Vietnam. Just as he releases his bombs over the target, a Russian-made surface-to-air missile, described as looking like a flying telephone pole, strikes his plane, ripping off its right wing. McCain ejects, breaking both arms and one knee, and parachutes into a shallow lake. After briefly losing consciousness, he wakes up to find himself, and this is an exact quote here from John McCain, being hauled ashore on 2 bamboo poles by a group of almost 20 angry Vietnamese. A crowd of several hundred Vietnamese gathered around me as I lay dazed before them, shouting wildly at me, stripping my clothes off, spitting on me, kicking and striking me repeatedly. Someone smashed a rifle butt into my shoulder, breaking it. Someone else stuck a bayonet in my ankle and groin. Soon, an army truck arrives, taking McCain as a prisoner of war. He will remain one for 5.5 years. North Vietnamese soldiers bring the badly injured McCain into a prison that the American POWs have nicknamed the Hanoi Hilton. He receives no medical attention, but is repeatedly interrogated and beaten. Some days later, after his captors discover that he is the son of an American admiral and realize his potential propaganda value, they transfer him to a hospital, where he receives blood transfusions and injections, but little other treatment for his injuries. After 6 weeks, he has lost 50 pounds and he weighs barely 100 pounds. He's told he isn't getting any better and sent to a prison camp, presumably to die. With the help of fellow prisoners, McCain slowly regains some strength and is eventually able to stand up and walk with the aid of crutches. He won't enjoy the camaraderie for long, however. In April 1968, he's put into solitary confinement, where he'll stay for the next 2 years. In June 1968, however, McCain's captors make an unexpected offer. They will let him go home. McCain suspects that they will force him to sign a last-minute confession in exchange, and that they want to embarrass his father, and that they believe giving him special treatment will demoralize other POWs whose fathers don't happen to be Navy admirals. He would also be violating what he calls a standard policy among officers to remain behind until those who have been held longer are released. McCain refuses their offer, telling the North Vietnamese officer that his decision is final. "Now it will be very bad for you, McCain," the officer told John McCain. And it turned out it was going to be very bad for him. The beatings and the interrogations continue, and McCain makes 2 attempts to hang himself, earning further beatings as punishment. Unable to take it any longer, he says, he signs a confession dictated by his captors. Told the following day to make a tape recording of the confession, he at first refuses, but he is soon beaten into complying. McCain remains a prisoner until the U.S. and North Vietnam sign a peace accord in late January 1973, ending the conflict. He's released in March, along with 107 other POWs, and boards a U.S. transport plane headed to Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. A New York Times reporter describes McCain's arrival at the base. His hair was gray, almost white in patches. After almost 5.5 years as a prisoner, and he limped off the plane as he held the handrail. Here's the main takeaway. The man was offered a release. He could have gotten out of jail. He said no. He refused to accept it because he believed that his release would be used as a weapon by the enemy to demoralize the remaining prisoners. This man served his country with uncommon valor. And what does Trump have to say about McCain's service to our country? On July 18, 2015, then candidate Donald Trump said this about John McCain. He's not a war hero. He was a hero because he was captured. I like the people who weren't captured. Let's examine candidate Harris concerning respect for veterans. I invite you to go to YouTube and watch Vice President Harris speak at the National Veterans Day observance on November 11th, 2022. Here are some excerpts of what she said. She starts off, "To our veterans, service members, families, caregivers, and survivors, it is a profound privilege to thank and honor you today and every day. You make America stronger. As Vice President at the DMZ in Korea, aboard ships in the Indo-Pacific, at SOCOM and CENTCOM in Florida, and on NATO's eastern flank, I have seen firsthand how American armed forces protect the highest ideals of our nation around the world. Veterans, you are the ones who answer the call. And in so doing, you often left the ones you love and the place you call home. You missed birthdays, holidays, and graduations. Some of you first met your newborn baby on a video chat. You risk everything and you give up so much to safeguard the lives and the liberty of people who you may never meet. To be a veteran is to have truly known the true cost of freedom and to have borne it for all of us. This is a debt that must always be remembered. And I believe it is a debt we must all work to repay. We have a sacred obligation to take care of our veterans and our military families. I think it's very clear that Vice President Harris better exemplifies respect for our veterans.